from South Florida, the Casey Ingram Show broadcasts from the heart of the Manatee Pocket, atop the Fish House District and Marina, Port Salerno's hidden gem. Now here's Casey Ingram Unleashed.
Sitting in the shadows, even calls the shots. Speaking truth to power where the rebels lost. Voices rising, anger crackles through the air. Casey's been unleashed, raising hell without a care.
Welcome to today's episode, where we tackle a critical issue affecting communities across Florida, gentrification. And today, we're bringing it home right here to East Stuart. I'm joined by City of Stuart Commissioner Chris Collins and longtime East Stuart resident Albert Brinkley to discuss the very real and urgent concerns about how the new Brightline station will accelerate gentrification in one of the city's most historically significant neighborhoods. Let's get one thing straight. Gentrification isn't just about whether homeowners choose to sell. It happens even when people want to stay. It happens when their property taxes skyrocket, when their rent triples, when the grocery store on the corner is replaced by an overpriced organic market, and when the soul of the neighborhood is sold off, piece by piece, to the highest bidder. And we don't have to guess what will happen here in East Stuart. We've already seen it play out in places like Overtown and Flagler Village. Since Brightline came to Miami, rents in Overtown have surged by more than 142%. Overtown land was at $20 a square foot, then approached $150 a square foot in 2015 at the announcement of the Brightline station. The very people who built that community, who have lived there for generations, are being squeezed out, priced out of their own history. Now let's bring it back to East Stuart, a neighborhood with deep roots, rich culture, and a strong sense of community. But the moment that Brightline station opens, investors are going to circle like vultures, just like they did in Overtown. New development won't be built for the people who already live here. It'll be built for newcomers, willing to pay premium prices. And when that happens, property values will spike. That means higher taxes, higher rent, higher cost for everything, from food to gas to basic services. And here's the kicker. The Brightline station isn't even designed to serve the people who live in East Stuart. This isn't a commuter train meant for working families trying to get to their jobs. Brightline is a luxury service, and the average short-distance ticket price is $52. That's not affordable for the everyday resident of East Stuart. That's a service for tourists, for business travelers, for people passing through. And yet, it's the long-term residents who will pay the price when investors start pushing to commercialize the area around it. So what can be done? Is there a way to protect East Stuart before it's too late? That's exactly what we're going to talk about today. Commissioner Collins will discuss what the city can do, if anything, to prevent displacement. And Albert Brinkley will share what he's already seen on the ground in his neighborhood. And let's be clear, the bottom line is, if you want to keep East Stuart a single-family home neighborhood and not let it become commercialized, then the answer is simple. Change the zoning back to pre-2004 zoning. That's the only way to stop developers from coming in and transforming East Stuart into something completely unrecognizable. Gentrification doesn't just change real estate, it changes lives, it changes communities, and it changes history. And if we don't take action now, East Stuart, like so many other neighborhoods, will be unrecognizable in just a few years. With me today, I have Commissioner Chris Collins and Albert Brinkley. Albert is a lifelong resident of East Stuart, Florida, deeply committed to preserving the rich history and cultural heritage of his community. He serves on the East Stuart Historical Advisory Committee, working alongside fellow members to achieve national recognition for the neighborhood's historical significance. In recent years, Brinkley has actively participated in local discussions concerning development and zoning regulations. He's voiced concerns that certain proposed code changes could negatively impact the character of East Stuart, emphasizing the need for thoughtful planning that respects the community's legacy. Brinkley advocates for development approaches that address housing needs without compromising the area's historical integrity. Through his ongoing involvement, Brinkley exemplifies dedication to ensuring that East Stuart's history and identity are honored amid growth and change. And elected in 2022, Christopher Collins currently serves as the Vice Mayor and Commissioner for the City of Stuart, representing Group 3. As a member of the 5-person City Commission, Collins plays a pivotal role in the governance of Stuart. The Commission is responsible for setting policies and making decisions that shape the future of the city. Each commissioner serves a 4-year term, with the positions of mayor and vice mayor being selected annually by a vote among the commissioners. Beyond his official duties, Collins is actively engaged with the community. He maintains a public presence through his Facebook page, where he shares updates and interacts with residents. Collins' commitment to Stuart is further evidenced by his participation in local initiatives and events, reflecting his dedication contribution to the well-being and development of the city. Commissioner Collins is here today to discuss the proposed zoning changes in East Stuart that aim to protect the neighborhood from gentrification and commercial development. So welcome to the show today, both of you.
Thank you for that.
Thank you very much.
Well, I appreciate you coming, and this is such an important topic, and it's near and dear to all of us here in Martin County. And Albert, I want to start with you because this is your neighborhood. Tell us a little bit about yourself. How long have you lived in East Stuart?
Basically, I came here in '58, so basically within a year I moved back to Georgia. I've been here for going on 65 years, and this neighborhood is dear to me. It's a comfort to all of us because we're in a position where in that community we don't have to look over our shoulders. You know, we live there peacefully, and that's what we want to continually to have, that peace, that history that's there and in the past has been destroyed. We want our history to be preserved, not destroyed, and that's what this gentrification, that's what this farm-based code is doing to our community. It already has been done, and we want to go back to what we had. We don't want to lose that history. And there's a lot of history that people don't know about the East Stuart community. And when this type of situation comes about, history be destroyed. And we don't want that. We want peace in our community just like other neighborhoods. You know, we are somebody in the sight of God. In God's eyesight, we are all the same. There's no respect of person when it comes to God. So we shouldn't be overlooked because we are black, our minority. We should be all looked at the same because we all come from God. God created us, and we all should look at one another as somebody. We have deep root history there. We don't want that destroyed. We just want our community just like other neighborhoods want to be. That's what we're looking for. Not taking our community because things have been going on in that community, straight out gentrification. And it's slowly. It's not an overnight process. Gentrification is a slow process. Next thing you know, it's not what it used to be anymore. We do not want that. We want our community, and that's what we are fighting for.
Commissioner Collins, gentrification seems to start with zoning changes, right? You know, that really helps it along.
There's market influences, but when you change the zoning and you take a residential neighborhood and make it commercial and mixed use, you throw gasoline on that fire and make it almost inevitable. Absolutely.
And you were elected in 2022, as I said, and you were there to represent the people. You said, I want to keep the American dream of single-family homes, you know?
Home ownership, I think it's the best hedge against all things bad. It's being able to own property.
And, you know, your first 2 years on the commission, I got to say, was a little tough. You were kind of in the minority commission that has changed since the last election in 2024. You know, and things happen when they should at the right time. And I think what's going on now, you as vice mayor started looking into these projects. And with Brightline coming and the zoning changes, you're trying to go through and
so
revisit.
The context is we were in a zoning
plan.
in progress for 6 months where we were looking at our code to try to see how do we have the future of the development of the city reflect what the voters want. And they gave us a mandate. They've removed all but one person who was a part of that previous development agenda. Okay, so with that in mind, how do we start to see Stuart develop and redevelop really within that kind of a, trying to think of the word, tone or, you know, attitude, right? Is it going to be the most beautiful, charming seaside town, or are we going to be apartments and 4-story high-rises? Everything's going to be built out. So we were going through that code, and in that process, one of the areas that have been changed wildly is East Stuart. And so as we got into the East Stuart code, I actually learned a lot. And initially, I voted for form-based code, which I'm sure we'll get into.
Yes.
Which was one of my biggest regrets. I now, you know, I didn't realize even what I was voting for at the time, but going through that zip process and looking through all the code, it became apparent that East Stuart had been modified and taken from a residential neighborhood to a business mixed use, not neighborhood.
And I want to jump right into that because one thing I do interview all the candidates when they're running for office, and one thing I heard repeatedly with the last couple election cycles, Stuart's built out already. You know, there's really nothing else you can do about the growth. And Commissioner Collins, it was very shocking to me. You have a book in your lap right now. that goes back to 2004, so
Correct.
a little over 2 decades ago. And this is what the future of East Stuart is designed to be.
Whether or not the people who actually live in the neighborhood know.
Well, we're going to point out some of those, whether they know, and
Yes.
you go through this book. Some of the things that were shocking to me is, the name has to change, East Stuart, because there's a stigma.
Yeah.
You want me to
Really?
go through some of this?
I would love for you to go
Yes.
through some of that.
So the context is, you had the Dwaney period where we were looking at revitalizing downtown. And sort of after that, late 90s into the early 2000s, the attention started to focus on East Stuart. As far as I can tell, what would be the next phase of extending downtown. So, you have the downtown center, Creek District, and now East Stuart is going to be the next expansion of downtown. So the East Stuart, and you'll do some screen overlays while I do
Yes.
this? Yeah. The East Stuart Charette report, this process of planning and having meetings to determine what East Stuart would become, because apparently a residential neighborhood just isn't good enough.
Evidently not.
You can clearly see in some of their photos, renderings, I should say, you go from what currently sits single-family homes to 2- and 3-story mixed use. And when you hear mixed use, it's like, what does that mean? What? Well, think City Place. Think Abacoa. Think the coffee shop, Starbucks on the bottom, the sushi place, and something else. And then the next 2 stories are either, $3,000 and $4,000 a month apartments or commercial space that's rented,
Offices.
like downtown.
Right.
So you go from a predominantly single-family home neighborhood to this 2 and 3 and potentially up to 4-story kind of high-rise mixed use. It's very different than what's in
It certainly is.
And
It looks very different, it is different, and it'll cost different.
And even to your point, which we might as well get right to this, because I think it's the most dramatic part. We talk about, I've mentioned, maybe we're erasing a neighborhood,
Yeah.
and that sounds a little bit dramatic until you get into page, I believe it's 38. And you reference this, it's wild, but on page 38 it says, a new name for East Stuart. And so it's one thing, to sort of be sounding the alarm over here and saying that this is what, has been the plan.
It's in black and white, right?
It's another thing when 20 years ago you've got it laid out, including changing the name. So I'll read it to you. East Stuart as a neighborhood has always been centrally located within the city. Its name has never been a reflection of its geographical location. So already we're setting the stage for...
Not sure why that rule is there, right? I didn't know there was a
name,
rule.
yeah, that's not relevant, right? So
Right.
we're subverting even the name to begin with, when there's a lot of pride in that neighborhood for the name East Stuart.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'll keep going. I'll start ranting. You got to keep me
It's
in
easy
line.
to rant, I know.
During the charrette, several residents expressed concern regarding the neighborhood's name. I wonder if those were residents from that neighborhood. I
Yeah.
don't think, probably
Yeah.
not.
There's photos of people that were attending the charrettes.
Yes.
And it doesn't look like a lot of
It
them
does
are
look
from
like
the
East
neighborhood.
Stuart was
Absolutely.
underrepresented. Yeah.
Albert,
Always.
you were there one moment.
Sure.
Were you attending any of these charrettes back then? Did you even know about them?
Never knew anything about it. You just hearing the name Charette and you like, what's going on? And see, that's been the plan of the city in the past, and thank God for those commission that's there now, because the plan was always to keep the community in the dark of what's going on. And that's not fair to us. That's the way the city always operated, to keep us in the dark. So I thank God for Commissioner Collins, Commissioner Giove, and Commissioner Reed, because without them, we'll be lost.
You still don't have a voice.
Because it's the government responsibility to serve the people, not serve your own interests. And it's just so much selfishness in government today. It's just like government has become dictatorship. Like, you're supposed to serve the people. That's your role, is to serve the people. And without the new regime that's there now, we'll be in trouble. We'll be in trouble because I did not know. And I'm involved in the community. I did not know nothing about the charrette. And that's sad.
And that's the surprising part about this. And Commissioner Collins, you're the one that you're kind of going through this form-based code, through the comp plan, and all of a sudden this document pops out, and you actually read it. And
Right.
and I'm going to say that's something different with these commissioners that are elected now that I've noticed. you guys go back and you're researching, you're reading. You're not just taking staff recommendation. You guys are looking for the facts yourself, and that's what needs to be done. And this is what's jumped out is this. This what's it called again? I'm sorry. The plan, the whole.
The East Stuart Charette report, but truly it's the East Stuart Master Plan.
Right, East Stuart Master Plan.
Yeah.
So,
Without East Stuart, maybe there was some East Stuart residents there, but it certainly wasn't the majority.
I didn't see.
Doesn't appear to be.
I didn't see any in the pictures.
Right.
And what's surprising to me is, again, this is 20 years ago. This is 2003, 2004
Right.
that this gets published. And you've had a lot of commissions over the years, composition of different people. This somehow never made it to public awareness until now,
It is surprising.
right?
And I think it's because you guys actually look at what your staff may recommend something and tell you, but you guys actually are researching it for yourself, and that's the difference. So thank you for that.
Discover the Fish House District and Marina, Port Salerno's ultimate waterfront escape. Nestled in the heart of Port Salerno and the breathtaking Manatee Pocket, the Fish House District and Marina is your go-to destination for fresh seafood, craft cocktails, and an unforgettable waterfront vibe. Drop anchor at the Pearl, the district's swanky new hotspot, serving up expertly crafted drinks and the freshest catches. Explore the district, unwind by the water, and top off your experience with a scoop or two of the best ice cream in Martin County at Captain Hook's, a local favorite known for its rich, creamy flavors that keep visitors coming back for more. Feeling adventurous? Stretch and relax with aerial yoga at the OM Shack. From laid-back days to lively nights, there's something for everyone. Come see what the buzz is all about. Visit the Fish House District and Marina at 4745 Southeast DeSoto Avenue in Port Salerno, right on the Manatee Pocket, where coastal charm meets excitement.
And I make a
Renaming
big
East
deal
Stuart,
about it.
this never.
It's
That's offensive.
it is offensive.
Very
I was going to
offensive.
ask you because
Yeah.
I think it's offensive, and I don't
Yeah.
live there.
It is very offensive.
This is your home.
Yeah.
But if you want to erase a neighborhood, you give it a new name.
New name. You might put a museum in, right?
Yeah.
And that's what I've said that I think it's a bit dramatic, but that the people from that neighborhood will only live in the placards in Guy Davis Park once you've gentrified that whole neighborhood and made it City Place.
So let's talk
Sure.
one thing about the form-based code and revising it, because the other side's narrative is like you're taking away something everybody else in the city of Stuart has. You're taking stuff away from East Stuart. What do you say to that argument?
So the context of that are these changes that happened in 0304. So we dramatically expanded the type of use that could be allowed in a residential neighborhood. It's like any of our residential neighborhoods, if tomorrow the zoning got changed to something like City Place, that's very inappropriate for that neighborhood. So the idea that somehow we're taking away by trying to restore the zoning back to residential, I think most reasonable people would have some pushback. Now, there was one particular part of the neighborhood that was zone B1 on East Ave going north, and I'll have that map so you can overlay it as well, and then along MLK. But even within that little L-shaped area was an R1, which is a single-family home zoning. So even back then, you had single-family home within B1, and everything else was residential, single-family home and duplex. Where now, if I show you this map, you'll be blown away. It's
We are going to look at that
the
map.
vast majority is
Yeah.
commercial, business, and mixed use, and I'll go through what those different usages are allowed and
Definitely.
how large these structures can be compared to a home. You know,
And this is, again, a single-family home for generations, And there wasn't a need to expand commercially.
part of the sales pitch for this, which I would call propaganda, is during segregation, and you've been there for a long time, so you could probably really give the rich history to it. But during segregation, that neighborhood had to service itself. So within that community, because you couldn't leave.
Right.
But with desegregation and being able to go out, a lot of those small businesses didn't exist anymore. And so we're going to restore back, these shops and this, time when East Stuart was thriving. And so there's this sense that, we're going to have these one, maybe two-story, because there's nothing over there that's three-story. These
Never
one
been.
and two-story shops, barber shops and coffee shops. That's like Commissioner Clark's favorite line is, I hope one day that we can have a cup of coffee in East Stuart. But that's not what it's zoned as.
Right. Right. It's not a coffee shop.
That's not what we're talking about. That's the pitch. But you have it as City Place. This is 3 and 4 story mixed use. That's very different than what you're saying.
Very different.
Sorry. Do you mind giving that context of segregation and desegregation?
Back in the day, because me, when I first came here, we started on Martin Luther King Boulevard. Run around Martin Luther King Park, back on Martin Luther King Park. So basically, all my life, and I'm living there now. So the majority of my life, I've lived in that little block there, Martin Luther King Boulevard. I've lived there. I'm around the corner off of Martin Luther King. So I know the difference of what they're trying to do and what should be. You know, it wasn't a whole lot of business like they want to claim all over East Stuart. That wasn't the case. You had 2 little streets that had the majority of the business there. And now you want to just take East Stuart, destroy the history, and have East Stuart, shall I say, and community say, City Place. We don't want that. We want our history to stay like it is. We need homes there. Because matter of fact, let me get to there. The city, and then I go back to gentrification. That's how it started. The city have come in East Stuart community, put on a home that was able to be fixed up and people live in. See, that's where gentrification started. Historical buildings, city come in, tear it down. Right now, people, and that's my concern. Business, that's fine. Me, I'm not about business. I'm about having somewhere, because God has blessed me with the home. So I'm looking for other people to have somewhere to lay their head, which the city have taken away. Destroyed buildings where people didn't have no concern of finding people somewhere to live when you come in and tear stuff down.
Albert, I remember just a few years ago, it wasn't that long ago, and you can tell me if that was part of the city taking away the homes, but there was a bunch of homes that the city deemed were not...
The Taylor property.
I think it was.
They condemned.
Cherokee.
Yes.
Cherokee.
Tell us a little bit about that, because I said, what else can happen to these people? They're living in these homes.
If you look in the charrette, Cherokee was on the list.
Okay. Oh.
Cherokee is gone. People that's living in those apartments, some are still on the street. I used to remember on night out, the city officials would come to the Teller property, eat this man food, and the old song say, "You bit the hand that feed you." The city official would be up on this man's property, because Mr. Teller, I call him Mr. T, because I've known him based all my life, and I know what he was about. This man was about the community, but you're sitting there eating this man food on night out, but you're already planning to take his property, or to take it away from him. And now what they're trying to do to that property, nobody in the East Stuart community will be able to live on that property if it's allowed to what they want to do. You take Martin Luther King Boulevard, Mr. Jock Layton built apartments there for the black people of that community, and right to this day, not one black person lives in those apartments. Why? Because it's not affordable. To see, this is where all this gentrification. The city had this plan long time ago, destroying the homes that was fixed. I did construction, so I know what can be fixed. Homes they deem, oh, it's got to be torn down. And the thing about the code enforcement, it will weaponize, because it got put into the police department. So now that representation came in, oh, this has to be fixed. Oh, this has to be torn down. So now they're using this to tear down the community. And that's what I mean tear down, because people don't have nowhere to live. People is on the street today. When I take my grandbaby to school in the morning, I'm seeing people homeless. That hurts, because the city had a hand in doing that, and that's not fair. I keep saying it over. That's part of gentrification. You open the doors to come in and take over. We are somebody, and it's wrong. It's history in that community. History been destroyed. People is hurting. We are somebody. Look at us as somebody. History is being destroyed just for the purpose of you coming in and taking over a community. That's not fair to the people of the community. I have seen history just being lost. One day, my daughter going to work, and she called back, you know, they tearing out a house around the corner, which is by Martin Luther King Park. That's history there. You know, I have lived 2 doors down from the Murrays, which that's where the middle school come in at, Murray Middle School. I was neighbors. That's the only thing that's left on Martin Luther King Boulevard. That's a lot of history there. And if it leave it up to the city, that would be in trouble there.
Gone too.
That would be in trouble. The place, the Mike Harders had the place down. It used to be the Dixie Bar. I was shown a picture where horse-drawn carriage was in front of this building. So it's history all in this community that is basically being destroyed by the city. A lot of people don't know. Former Negro League ball player Satchel Paige have walked those streets in that community. That won't be remembered if this continues with the farm-based code. So I thank God for the ones that's trying to change this. I hear Mr. Collins say he voted for that. Saying that's takes pride, because the same ones say, oh, he didn't vote for it, but he voted for it and lied about it. And I confronted him. Tell the people that you voted for the farm-based code. Mm-hmm. But you lying about it. Here's someone that's being honest. This takes a straight human being to be honest about it and not lie.
It's so
trying
important.
to change trying to change the wrong to right. That's important. To be honest, if you're sitting up there on the stand, be honest with the people, because there's already no trust with the East Stuart community and the city. We had 2 police officers, Sergeant Hall and Captain Washington. That was our bridge between the city. As once they retired, there was no more trust. We do not trust because we always lie. I always get the question asked me at City Hall, Mr. Franklin, why y'all always be the last one to know? And when you all do know, it's always at the last minute. We're always in the dark when it comes to the city. And I thank God for these commissioners that is willing to stand and help us, because it's always been an issue between East Stuart and the city. It's never was no communication. And that's sad. You're a government. You are working for the people.
Right.
So you're supposed to reach out to the people. That's the thing that government needs to understand. You're supposed to be working for the people, not against the people. Leave it up to them. It wouldn't be no East Stuart. And that is not fair to the community. And you look all over the country, that's going on in the black neighborhoods. Gentrification.
It is.
And that is wrong. All over the country it's happening. And basically, we're the only predominantly black neighborhood that's left in my county. And that's sad, it has to be that way. But we want to keep our community for what it is and not be lost to all these things that's going on. It's wrong. In the sight of God, it's wrong. You have a responsibility, the government have a responsibility to God to carry out the law of the land. We're supposed to obey the law of the land. So if you're not carrying out the law of the land, how in the world you expect us to do our part? You have a responsibility to God to carry out the law of the land. And it's not being done in this case here. It's wrong.
So let me segue into what we're trying to do to fix it.
Huh?
Let me segue to what we're going to try to do to fix it. So 2 things have been discussed. One is restoring the zoning pre like 1998, 2004 to residential. So that was one change. The second change is within code, each of these different new zoning designations, and there are 3 in that neighborhood: single family duplex, business mixed use, and general residential office, that are reflected with the different colors of the parcels. But permitted uses within those different zonings are pretty wide open. So what we've to be very summarized, what we've recommended is, if you are going to build something that's more intensive than residential, that you would need to come in with a conditional use application, right? Which would trigger a community meeting. Right now, as it stands, you would have to meet whatever.
It's an automatic approval because it's already zoned. And you've had that happen, correct, in the neighborhood?
Absolutely.
With the gutter company.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm thinking they putting up gutters to the place, not knowing they moving in. We didn't know anything about that. That's not fair. That's the thing what I'm talking about, and that's a thing that I want them to address, because it's wrong to just come into it. It wouldn't happen in no other parts, do it? And it is hurting us to hear this racket every morning, and not just the noise, just the way it was done. No respect. And that's not the way again, I like to reiterate, that's not the way government's supposed to be run. That's not fair, the way that happened. And I applaud them what they're trying to do to stop these type of things, because if it go on, there won't be East Stuart anymore. There won't be East Stuart. I built the house not for me. I built the house for my daughter and my grandbaby.
Right.
That's what I built that for. I want them to have something. And if the way this is going out, if they wasn't there, that wouldn't be there. Because I'm right there in the line of fire. That's where the fire starts at, where I live at. So I want things to be done the right manner. Respect us.
It's a treasure. You don't have a lot of places like this where some of the same families have lived
all their life
for 100 years.
Absolutely.
To have a neighborhood like that exists.
And want to continue to be there the next 100 years.
Absolutely. Right. And I've seen people up there in the age that done struggle all their life to have something, and then overnight it can be taken away. That is not fair. That's what I'm fighting for. Not for me. I'm last on the list. God first, you all before me. That's what I'm fighting for. People that done been there all their life, done struggled to have, and overnight it can be taken away from them. No. I'm not standing for that there. Whatever God will allow me to do, that's what I'm going to do. I'm fighting for you, not for me. And it's wrong the way that I cannot stand to let that go the way it's going. It's not fair. And I thank God that change is trying to be done with the commissions that's there. It's not fair.
And Commissioner Collins, you've been asked this as well. I mean, we know why developers are trying to change the code. It makes their pocket fatter. Why are
There's
you
a dramatic
so
change in value from a single family home to a 3 or 4 story mixed use building.
Absolutely.
Which brings in more tax revenue for the city.
Yeah.
A lot of the people that were very pro Brightline, you saw this, were the realtors and the developers, because they're looking at the increases in property values. But if you don't want to sell your house and you want your kids to live there, that doesn't help you. It just drives up your property taxes. It's not a benefit for you if the listing.
And you get commercial right next door where you used to have a family that your kids could play with.
Mm-hmm. Correct. And to his credit, since I've been on the commission, Albert's been hanging around. He's there. He's watching. He's listening. He's taking notes. He's paying attention to what's going on for the East Stuart neighborhood. He's there.
What got you so involved and so passionate? Because thank goodness you've looked at this. But
in this particular issue, going through the zoning, going through our code, what created this change that everybody is so frustrated in? And there were specific changes that were made in around 2020 with regard to basically quadrupling the density that we allowed. So you end up with all of these 4-story apartment buildings with half of the parking that they should have. There's these huge problems that if that was continued to happen, if it keeps being allowed to happen, it's going to be impossible to navigate the city, and there's going to be way too many people, and it kills the golden goose, effectively. East Stuart is low-hanging fruit. So that is the spot where it's so valuable in its proximity to the train station that there's just going to be so much more pressure on it if Brightline is to happen.
It's happened south of already.
To see that's the first. And so maybe my selfish motivation is, what about when that extends towards my neighborhood? Right? If East Stuart's the first line of defense because of its location.
It has happened, and I mentioned Overtown for folks that don't realize where it is. It was one of the poorest communities in the state of Florida, just outside of Miami. And you think about that, $20 a square foot for land to $150 in 2015, when land was still not that expensive like it is now. Went up that much because of the Brightline station being
announced. There's still going to be that pressure there if there's a station, and even if it's residential. It's still going to have to be hold the line, don't sell.
Which, interestingly enough, that station was identified to be there through their charrettes.
Yes, exactly. Absolutely. But you just make it so much more likely that neighborhood doesn't exist, because what reasonable person is going to say no to the kind of money that's going to show up when it's not Barron and Jeremiah Barron or NAI South.
Oh, it's
It's not the
outside
local
money.
guys. It's international money.
It is.
You have a Saudi Arabian wealth management company asset that has a lot of friends and different groups and developers, and
Florida
that's
is the
crawling through your
target.
neighborhood. And that kind of money doesn't care about the money.
No.
That kind of money cares about the convenience of being able to walk downstairs from their condo and get on the Bright Line to go down south. You know, there's so much money coming into Miami and industry, and that's fantastic for your economy. But as soon as the city of Stuart, and this train station is in East Stuart,
Yes.
as soon as East Stuart is plugged into that artery, it now becomes a part of that entire economic culture, and it's impossible for the people who have lived there forever to continue to live there.
Yeah.
It's
It will.
impossible.
It will change the fabric of the neighborhood.
Yeah. And that's the sad part about it, where we are located at and where this train station is supposed to be. Because I tell everybody, and it hurts me, it's offensive to the community. It's offensive to me when you hear that saying, that side, the north side of Martin King is not in East Stuart. And my question is, well, where is it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Where is it?
Yes.
Matter of fact, where you want to put Bright Line, that's part of East Stuart.
Absolutely.
You know, but I find that so offensive. This is 2025, not 1925. I find it offensive to look at us in that manner. You know, that's really offensive. Oh, that side is not in East Stuart. I remember living
As if
on
there's
my...
still a stigmatism too, right?
Oh, and
You know?
and you know, when people come into the neighborhood, I'm glad you brought that up. You know what they tell us? White people, I like to be upfront about this. You know what they say? If you listen to the city, this is the worst place you can be. And you know what they say? I feel more safer here than downtown.
Yeah.
And that's in the charrette stigma. Well, who put that stigma on the East Stuart community?
Right.
The city. The
Right.
city.
I'll read it. Over the years, a negative connotation seems to have been attached to the East Stuart designation. The residents believe that a new name for the neighborhood should accompany the adoption of this new master plan.
The residents.
And tell me what resident.
Yeah. Who? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Put them out there.
Exactly.
There's nobody with that. That matter of fact, when I'm going around telling people this here, nobody knows about it, and that's offensive when I tell them that. Yeah.
What is the reaction in the neighborhood right now? Because you are out there trying to educate everybody, and it's hard to reach everybody because people are busy. You got families to feed and kids to take to school.
Well, the thing about this here is people is shocked that it's happening, but I'll let the people know it's already into play.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the thing is, the people, we don't want to lose our community. There shouldn't be no business there. So I'm with the people. I don't have nothing against businesses. That's your thing. But me, I reiterate again, I'm about someone having somewhere to lay their head. That's what we want in our community. And people is upset when I tell them about what would happen if this thing stay into play. And the community is upset, you know, and my responsibility from God, again, I say, I got to help the people. So I'm out there trying to educate the people of what's going on, to let them know their lies is being put out there. This thing is already in existence, and if it don't get changed, there's no more East Stuart. And that is not fair. You know, that's not fair to us. All we want is to have that peace in our community. Again, we don't want to be looking over our shoulder. I think to an extent we too complacent, because people come in there just like, oh, no big deal. Sometimes these days of time you could get too complacent. You know, we welcome anybody, you listen to the city, oh, that's dangerous. Anybody can walk in that community because you're welcome. You're welcome there. You know, and that's a community that we would like to continue to have. Our peace, our home, not waking up one morning that your neighbor is not there no more, some high-rise business is there. We don't want that, you know, because it wouldn't be done nowhere else in the city of Stuart. That wouldn't happen nowhere else. You wouldn't go over to Palm City and do that. You wouldn't go over to North River Shore and do that. You wouldn't go nowhere else in the city and do what you're trying to do.
No, the county commission actually bought a parcel in Palm City, so apartment building could not be built.
See?
You know, let me also point out too. Let's talk about complacency for a second. There's two things to that. It might be you're comfortable, everything seems fine, so you're complacent. it also could be the fact that for years your voice wasn't heard and you
Right.
become complacent because it doesn't make a difference to make to make your voice heard. That's changing right now, and I think that's what people need to realize.
And see, the thing about that, we won't change, but we won't change that's going to benefit us. Not what you want. We won't change that's going to benefit us, because living there all our life, it's never really nothing been done to the East Stuart community. You're looking at the same old, you tell people what you want, you don't get it. But then you want to tell us what you want, not what we want. And we're tired of that. This has been going on for God knows how long. And then to me, that's that racial stimuli there.
Yep.
You know,
And-
it shouldn't be.
And so, as it stands right now, we did not include these updates of restoring it to residential zoning, or having to do conditional use and trigger a meeting, a public meeting. Those changes were not made in the zip. We extracted those out, and we're going to have a meeting at 10th Street with the neighborhood on the 20th. And at that time, we can put it all up on the PowerPoint, you can see, and we can go street by street, parcel by parcel,
Ask questions.
and say, right now as it stands on Tarpon, where there are houses, there can be I believe it's 35 feet. You can have a 35-foot tall with no meeting, 3-story, 35-foot tall where there is a single-family home. Is that something that this neighborhood is interested in or not? And maybe it is. Maybe
if
after
it
that
is, by
meeting,
all means, right?
we
But-
say, on Tarpon, no, on Bahama, no, but maybe over here, yes. That makes more sense. And if we are going to do it, it should be restricted to that. And then the neighborhood can,
Which is what it's about, right? Albert, I mean, the neighborhood should be the one having their input and their voices heard.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I look back when those apartments on Top Run near the police station was torn down, that was just the beginning of the city trying to walk through the door. And once they walk through the door, there's no more closing the door.
Right.
That took away someone to live. And I reiterate, there's people that live in these places that the city torn down is living on the streets. That hurts me.
That
'Cause I
breaks
see
my
that.
heart.
Yeah,
I mean,
I see that in the morning when I take my grandbaby to school. I see people that don't have nowhere to live because of what the city did to the community. That's wrong. That's hurtful.
And it is, Albert. And I remember I'm in Palm City. It was a story on the news for me. And I'm like, but what about the people living in the homes? Surely they're going to help them. They didn't.
No,
They didn't whatsoever.
absolutely not here. In this scenario, they did not. It's just like it didn't matter. And that shows me you don't have no heart, because if you're going to do something like that, make sure these people have somewhere to go. And that's not the case now. People walking in the street, that I don't know about nobody, that hurts me.
Absolutely.
That hurts me
Absolutely.
to see this.
And they had a
every day.
roof over their head.
Absolutely.
Let's address something that was said in one of the commission meetings as well. This zoning's really, it doesn't need to be changed because all the lots and the parcels are small. So, they would have to buy 6-10 lots at a time to be able to build anything.
I don't know the
Commissioner
exact
Collins?
math, but many of the parcels are vacant right now over there. And so,
Easy to do.
easy to do.
And my question is, if you weren't concerned about this zoning happening that's going to make 3 or 4-story buildings and apartments, then why make that zoning in the first place? You shouldn't be making the argument it's not going to be built because the lots are too small. It shouldn't be there in the first place. But
It's
it doesn't
obviously
it is obvious.
a scam.
It's obvious.
Absolutely.
They will build. They will.
You wouldn't do it for
purchase all the
something that you
lots.
didn't intend it to become.
Absolutely.
100%.
That's the point
The
of
zoning is there to make
Absolutely.
it happen.
If you didn't have no intent, then you wouldn't have did what you did.
And to the
Bottom
credit
line.
of the neighborhood, that was a very interesting meeting to watch. A lot of the neighborhood and sort of extension of the neighborhood, the community that maybe doesn't even live over there, but is family of people who do. There was a lot of people there. And you could watch as that meeting unfolded. At first, there was a lot of, sort of taking it all in, drinking
Right.
it in, who's saying what, and who's telling the truth and who's not.
Right.
And then progressively as we went, you saw a shift happen in the energy. And all of a sudden, people are realizing, okay, that doesn't make sense.
And it's super important. There's one other thing that doesn't have to do with gentrification necessarily, but it's just how the population has increased within the city. And
Yes.
one thing in the last election cycle that was brought out is we have 60,000 cars coming over the bridge, Roosevelt Bridge, every day. It's all Port St. Lucie people that's causing the traffic. Well, it turns out there's a website that keeps track of traffic, and a decade ago it was like 57,000,
Yes.
very near the same. So this is from changing neighborhoods, single-family homes, making a 3-story apartment building.
It's again, this is propaganda.
Yes,
Mhm.
people just need to know what's going
Clearly,
on.
there's traffic from Port St. Lucie, but it's
Is that
something
the
you can
real
just-
impetus? Or
you
is
can
there
just
other
blame.
things?
Meanwhile, you've approved 3,000 units for development and taken your population from 16 or 17,000 people to 23,
Right.
like that,
Right.
in a few years. No, that's self-inflicted. You did that.
Yeah, and it obviously is, you look for traffic around the holidays, but now that's not the case anymore. Traffic is a problem every day
Every day.
here. You're allowing this development to come in. You don't have the infrastructure to handle
Correct.
all of this
Right,
here.
right.
So now you're creating problems now. It's hard getting on the road now without you getting caught up in traffic. Come on, that's not fair. You don't have it here to do that. Keep things, kind of slow things down a little bit. Where, you're trying to hit Palm Beach, Miami, and you don't have the infrastructure to even do that.
Which, to its credit, the city commission took that seriously, and we've scaled back all of those density allowances, increased our parking requirements to what is appropriate, and doing our best that as we move forward, that doesn't happen.
And I think that's the tough thing when you look at governments
With
and
much
different
wailing and
commissions.
gnashing of teeth from developers at
Yes.
every single one of those meetings.
Well-
you saw.
And once they get those approvals, it's really tough to take them away. And you're fighting it right now,
Right.
tooth and nail. But you're taking our rights away. That's what they're trying to tell East Stuart now. You're taking their rights away. You're not
What
doing it
about
to
the
other
rights of the people
communities.
that live there now
Right.
in those houses? And that's something you don't hear a lot, is the property rights of the people who are stakeholders and already
Absolutely.
invested that live in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
That never gets brought up. It's always the other property owner that wants to turn it into some large scale thing. What about all the people who are invested in there and their quality of life?
Yeah, and that goes back to that first meeting with the farm-based code, and I was there, that very first meeting, and the conversation, the board sitting up there, I think of the whatever the board was, CBA, whatever, and they sitting up there when this was presented to them, and they sitting up there saying, well, what is the farm-based code? So I'm sitting back there, I'm like, if you all don't know, how you going to throw that on the East Stuart community? Because the conversation was to combine the Creek District with East Stuart. And God bless his soul, Pete Walston said, you all have to remember one thing. The Creek District is business. East Stuart is a residential community. How in the world y'all want to combine the two? And I got there and I reiterate the same thing. I'm like, this is not fair, but then you all making decisions for us, again, I say, without our knowledge of what you're doing. Because see, here's the scenario. I can't come and run your house because I don't know your house. So you're coming in trying to tell us what to do, and you don't even know about the East Stuart community. That's not fair. I can't run my house like your house. That's two different scenarios. And in this scenario there, that's two different cultures. You cannot do that there. It's just like we doesn't matter to the city, and that's been going on ever since I can remember. And it's all about one thing, race.
Albert, it's
Money.
a new day.
Money. Absolutely.
It's both of them, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely.
I mean,
yeah.
your neighborhood is as historic as it is very attractive. Its location is just perfect for development.
And believe it or not, in the meeting, that was said, and a lot of people not want to say, like, we don't know what we have.
No. And
And they actually said that this is a very valuable piece of property here, and we say, like, we don't know that.
like you don't know.
That's why
your
we don't.
homes.
We
It
trying to
is.
fight you
Yes,
all.
yes.
You
You're
know?
trying to protect it.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you love today's show, thank the experts at Impactful Media Group. And if you want your next event, project, or campaign to shine just like this, visit impactfulmedia.com.
And it is a new day in Stuart. And,
It is.
And Commissioner Collins,
People are waking up.
I pointed out to you in the last city meeting, it was very nice of you that you were trying to explain to people what it meant.
Absolutely.
The mayor
Absolutely.
tried to shut you down.
He surely
Yeah.
didn't like me doing that.
Nuh-uh.
He sure did not.
Yes.
Disrespectful.
But people don't understand. And then I noticed one of the staff, not blaming anything on them, but even they didn't remember what one of the acronyms were, and they live it and breathe it every day. It's so important. How's the everyday
Because
resident going to know?
it's a lot.
It
We
is.
subcontracted Treasure Coast Regional Planning to put all of this together for us for East Stuart.
So even staff isn't.
Which just so
aware.
happens to also be the same group that put together the Brightline proposal. It's all,
The 15-minute cities,
Yes.
and yes,
Yes.
that's another whole topic that I
and
won't
it
get
is. It's
into,
very
but-
comprehensive. And what I'll send to you are the highlights. You know, how
Yes.
high, how tight are the setbacks? You know, what can be allowed in those different uses, mixed use, hotels, all of these different usages that are not
That's right.
houses.
And see, that's the thing, Sabrina, that's the thing that's been going on in the past. You just throw stuff out the community, don't try to explain nothing. And the people look at something like, oh, that look nice. But you're getting all the details
Right.
of what's behind that.
Yep.
And see, that's the key. And if anybody looked at that charrette, they'll say, oh, that's all good. But you didn't get all the details of what's behind that there. And so that never was the case with the city. City just throws stuff out there. And thank God for these commissions that took time, even at that meeting Monday, took time to let the people know. I knew what's what, but there was people that sitting in that audience that did not know. And I heard that when I went out in the community. See, it's a difference between just throwing stuff on people, let them trying to figure it out, instead of sitting there like you should be doing, explaining of what's going on. Because if you're not going to explain, that means you got something, what, to hide.
So let me give you the quick breakdown if you want to do a screen
Yes,
overlay on
yes.
this. Is where currently there sits single-family homes,
Okay.
right? Within the green, you call it general residential office. You can build without anybody's permission, without a public meeting, without the community knowing, up to 3 stories and 35 feet. Or you can have a public meeting and go up to 40 feet. And within that general residential office, which doesn't sound too bad, right? GRO, general
General office,
residential
the dentist's office, right?
Well, yeah, dentist's office. It sounds like, well, when it's 3-story, now we're talking about something else. That's not a single story. You know, somebody lives there and there's a barber shop or a coffee shop that's quaint. This is a large scale Abacoa type thing. So you can have multifamily. So when you think of like 4-story, 3-story, 4-story apartment buildings, and again, this can be 4-story with commission approval as well. You can have mixed use. You can have boarding houses, rooming in boarding houses, bed and breakfast inns. So you could have a 4-story, effectively like a hotel. Adult daycare centers, child care centers, which there are child care centers in that neighborhood, but they're single story.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're not talking about
Right.
3- and 4-story buildings. Government buildings are allowed.
Of course.
Of course. Boy.
Yeah.
You're looking for a new home, right?
And then within the purple, you'll see business mixed use. This can be 40 feet without anybody's permission or a public meeting, and up to 45, 3 stories or 4 stories. 45 with commission approval and 4-story. And that is similar but even more intensive. And that's going to include hotels, motels, not just B&Bs, which I don't know how you really distinguish the two, but
Right.
when it
Right.
comes down to it. Hotels, let's see here, arts, shops and galleries, museums.
Like the gentrification, you have a museum to show what was once there.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Bars, because I'm sure that right next to the church in your neighborhood, in a Christian neighborhood, they'd love to have bars.
Everybody has to have a
Come
drink.
on now. Boy.
Clubs, lodges, fraternal organizations, catering shops, a lot of like medical. So you can have like what I do, chiropractic, medical, dental, massage therapy, microbreweries and craft distilleries, you know, some more beer. Story. I'm sure you want people wandering around the streets at 2 a.m.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like we want that. Yeah. That's okay.
Peeing in your
Yeah.
bushes. Yeah, that sounds like a
Yeah,
fantastic
yeah.
evening.
Family.
A good idea.
Yeah. Restaurants, retail, rooftop dining. So you can have, you'd have 3 or 4 story with rooftop dining. Meanwhile, you're in your single family house trying to take a bath or a shower. This all makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? Theater, including drive-ins. So this kind of thing. It's
All right, Albert. So that's what it's zoned for. It could be built right now. Just for people that are listening that may not be familiar with East Stuart, give us a visual of walking down your streets. What's East Stuart today?
East Stuart is that neighborhood where you take pride. We take pride in it. You know, you walk and you see history, but on the other hand, you see history that was taken away. Around the corner from me was this George White. I go back on the street. Let's go back on the street that I'm on now, Central Avenue. There was this dry cleaner. I used to walk around the corner off of Martin and just stand there and watch him dry clean. Around the corner was Mr. George White. He did the tailoring for the Whites. Mr. Lorraine Hammond did the dry cleaning. So I looked at that street. I walked by the house there. It got burnt, so they had to do a little reconfiguration of the dry cleaning. But I remember that as a child, you know, seeing that. Then I walked around the corner where the White was. The city, it's in the charrette. The city could have rebuilt, rehab that house. History still could have been standing, but yet the city tore it down. So I walk around and see this history in this community, then I see history that was destroyed. I can walk around and feel the comfort in that community, and not only me, others in the community feel the same way. That's what we have pride about, that history in that community, that comfort that we have in that community. If it stay like it is, that won't.
And again, this is how it is zoned right now.
Right now,
Right now.
it could be
Today.
changed.
Absolutely.
And tomorrow, if the grant comes through for Brightline,
It
and
will.
it's a done
All
deal,
that is gone.
this is what this neighborhood sits as.
Absolutely.
On zoning.
And through the
We'll be
years,
changing it.
the only thing we had there was 2-story homes. I lived in a 2-story right on Martin Luther King Boulevard. Matter of fact, growing up, we could only play baseball in a park that in our community on the weekend. So during the weekdays, I would go upstairs, sit in the hallway, and watch the white kids in the high school play. On the weekend, we only could play on Saturday and Sunday in a ballpark that is in our community. So it's just a lot of history there, some good and some not. But we are comfortable with what we have. We just want some improvement. We don't want nothing destroyed. We want improvement. And again, we want change in our community. We just don't want what the city wants.
I think it's what most people who live here want. Is it's fine to make it nicer.
Absolutely.
Just don't make it different.
Right.
There you go.
Don't make
That's
it more
the key.
dense and taller and bigger.
Absolutely.
Let's have this place be what it
Absolutely.
is. And if we're going to make it nicer, that's fine. That's great.
3 or 4 story, and the only height it been in that community was 2-story homes in that community. What it looked like a 3-story next door to me
Correct.
in a single family home.
That's the big difference right there.
Absolutely.
And how
It's
long
not
are you
fair.
going to want to live in that house with that next door when the developers are knocking on the door saying, hey,
Absolutely.
listen, we can cut you a check for this. I know you've been holding out for a while, but you know we can
It'll
really
happen.
take care of you.
Yeah. I seen that happen with my daughter grandparents on Monterey. You had about 3 or 4 black families there. Some of them went ahead and took the money, but this one house is still sitting on the south side on Monterey right to this day, still sitting there because they hung on and everything got built
That'll be Albert.
around.
You go, Albert.
I'm not going anywhere.
Not
'cause
going.
I'm comfortable. I'm comfortable there. I really am, because people come to my house and they ask me and say, "Well, is this like here all the time?" I said, "Day and night. I can sit on my porch. Nobody never know I'm sitting there, peaceful at all times." And people shocked. I like this here. It's like this all the time. I said, absolutely, day and night. I just come outside. I just stand up there and just hear the sounds of the night and look up the stars, because you don't even have to worry about nothing. Just enjoy. I do not want to be in a position of worrying about somebody coming in my house,
Right.
looking over
right.
my shoulder. If I'm trying to walk down the road, looking over my shoulder, we don't have that issue in that community. And that's what I feel good about. That's what I'm proud about. Yes, we got a bad reputation that it shouldn't be. And a lot of that, I go back, started with the city. The city put that stigma, and it's funny that it's in the charrette, that stigma. They created that stigma. We want peace of what we have. We want to continue to have that. Some changes, improve it, help us improve it. Because the thing that bothers me, the city had a lot of property in that community. And I always told them, take that property, build somebody homes on it. They gave 3 properties to Habitat, and not one person in that community lived in that home.
Wow.
Not one person out of those 3 lots lived in those homes that they allow Habitat to build.
Gave it.
That hurts. Outsiders came in and lived in that property. That's the type of stuff that the city does, man. And I'm glad that these commissioners, the new commissioners on there, because the old regime is just like, y'all don't matter. That's sad.
It's very sad.
Absolutely.
And that Habitat for Community homes could have been for the people that they destroyed the homes.
Exactly.
A few years ago, you said the Taylor property. Why not for those folks?
Absolutely. A lot of those people that in Taylor property is living on the streets right now.
That breaks my heart.
Absolutely.
It seems to me everybody's talking about our rights are going to be taken away. It seems to me right now what's going to be taken away is the fabric single-family home of East Stuart neighborhood, or you're taking away the 3-story, 4-story buildings. That's going to be a mixed-use project like you do see in City Place with an apartment on the top, commercial office buildings, doctors in the coffee shops, and other things at the bottom. So which one do you want to take away? And East Stuart needs to decide that. I have no say in it. If you're not living in East Stuart, frankly, you shouldn't. You've got commissioners to represent you, thank God. But East Stuart, you really need to come out and have your voices be heard, because this is your neighborhood. This is your history. And
we're taking our time. So we did not include it in the zip again. It has not been voted on yet. We're really trying to seek input and make sure that if we can sit down and however long it takes, we can figure out what the best path forward is.
And this has been an interesting process, Commissioner Collins, and I want to say something to that end. You were having the meetings, and you're moving forward with the zip process, and all of a sudden it blew up for a reason. You haven't reached out to the neighborhood. You were going through the normal processes, but once everybody came up and said, "Hey, we need more time. We want to speak about it," you said yes.
I'll be very frank with you. I'll be very frank with you. For 6 months, we've been going through this process of looking at our code. And it wasn't until the week before our final vote to move forward with these changes that one commissioner, who will remain nameless, decided to, on his own, outside of the city's purview, set up a meeting at 10th Street, which by default prevents any of your other commissioners from attending. He rented it. He set it up for himself as the mayor, so it appears to be a city sponsored event, but it was him, going over. And because of sunshine rules, unless it's publicly advertised, there's minutes taken, our city clerk is there, we are all violating sunshine. If I asked, my city attorney, and I said, what do I do? It's going to be one perspective and one narrative sort of posing as the city's position. Well, you shouldn't even go, Chris, because I don't have the self-control to hear things that's narrative and spin and not push back.
Say something,
so
right.
I couldn't go, because if I were to speak, I could get in serious trouble and be violating sunshine, and the same for our other commissioners. And so that happened, days before that final vote, in my opinion, in an attempt to use the community for political pawns, because this individual has been trying to. There have been 15 to 30 minute filibusters before every one of our items. There's been constant stalling, so this was like the final. And instead of just using political tools, using a neighborhood,
right,
to that political agenda to that end. So.
And he advertised it through a church on Sunday. I mean, it really was silencing the voice of truth here. I mean, we need this. I'm so glad you're having an open meeting where everybody can be there, ask questions.
Which is
and
the silver
residents
lining
can
in the whole
figure
thing
out.
is there'll be that much more of an opportunity for everybody to understand
Which
what's
is
been
what
going
it's
on.
about. Yes.
Which
Yeah.
that may backfire on
Right.
him.
Right. It has been interesting so far.
Yes.
And Albert, you have been such a strong voice, and you've caught my attention with your comments at the commission meeting. You're out there. That's so important to be involved and talk to your neighbors.
And it is important to me. Like I say, I have a responsibility from God for your soul first, but to help you in a way I can. And we have been telling the city before all of these became a commission,
Right.
come talk to the people. You need to let the people know what's going on. We don't need to find out at the last minute. We have told them this for years. Even when this farm base came before they even got on the commission, we let them know. Let the people know. Let us have some say. It's just like one ear didn't go to one ear and come out the other. It bounced off that ear. Like what we say didn't make no difference. And now look what it came down to now. If you did what we told you to do, it wouldn't have never came down this far, because we told you from day one we did not want this. We did not want this. So it's just like what we said, it didn't even matter to the city. It did not matter. And it's sad that it has to come down to the situation here. And the people want single family home. That's what I've been hearing lately, single family home. People ain't concerned about it. Then there's Walmart, there's Winn-Dixie, there's Publix. That's what we want, single family home in that
Because
community.
once you allow that business to be there, I can't stop. I can't tell that particular property owner now that they can't go to 4 stories.
Right.
If that's
Once it's there,
you know,
it's there.
Zoning is regulation.
only
You'll be
thing I-
sued and you'll lose that lawsuit.
the only way you can do it is to keep that residential.
Absolutely,
That's your hedge against this kind of a thing.
absolutely.
We've seen it happen in Miami. We've seen it happen in Fort Lauderdale. And if we don't fight for East Stuart, we'll see it happen right here. The Bright Line station might bring convenience, but it also brings a price that longtime residents shouldn't be forced to pay. And let's not pretend this station was built with East Stuart and residents in mind. A daily commuter train would be one thing, but this is a premium service with prices that most working families here simply can't afford. The station will serve the affluent and outsiders, not the community, but it's the people of East Stuart who will bear the burden of rising cost and displacement. But this isn't inevitable. The community has a voice, and it needs to be heard. Policies can be put in place to protect residents, to slow displacement, and to ensure that East Stuart's future isn't just written by developers with deep pockets. And one of the most effective ways to do that is to restore the pre-2004 zoning, bringing back protections that once kept this neighborhood intact. So what can you do? Get involved, show up to the city meetings, demand action, and most importantly, support the people who call East Stuart home now before they're forced to leave. Thank you to Commissioner Chris Collins, Albert Brinkley, for joining me today. This is a conversation we can't afford to ignore.
Agreed.
This is Casey Ingram, a voice that won't be silenced, lighting the fire of truth.
Yeah.
If you enjoyed the episode, be sure to subscribe to the podcast and stay tuned for more conversation that matter. Until next time, stay informed, stay engaged, and never stop questioning. The meeting is March 20th,
That's right.
10th Street Center,
Be there.
6
It's at
p.m.
5 or 6 p.m. Yeah.
We'll
find out, yeah.
Yep, we'll correct that. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
My pleasure, honestly. So that's
Good job.
Thank you very much.